see my daughters. Do you know how long it's been since I made love to my wife?
At least one daughter ago.
Wayne Rogers wasn't just playing a role about missing his family. He was describing the cost of working in television's most controlling environment.
We were rehearsing a scene after we had shot it, and after the day's work was over. We stood by the trailer. We were standing in front of the trailer as though the trailer were the camera, and we were playing to the side of the trailer to see if we could get the scene to work.
Two actors rehearsing scenes they'd already filmed because they couldn't let go. This was the obsession that would transform MASH from ensemble comedy into one man's creative empire.
Everybody thought in MASH, for example, that I had, and I tried to do a little bit of that because the guy who wrote it, was from Maine, really, and he wrote about this guy, this character I played, Trapper John, was really from Massachusetts.
The writer controlled everything. What started as television's most beloved war comedy would become the battleground for the most ruthless creative takeover in TV history. So let's get into it. September 17th, 1972. MASH premiered on CBS with a simple premise borrowed from Robert Altman's film. Two Army surgeons, equal partners in comedy and chaos, surviving the Korean War through wit and irreverence. Alan Alda as Hawkeye Pierce. Wayne Rogers as Trapper John McIntyre. Co-leads in what promised to be television's smartest ensemble comedy. The illusion lasted exactly 3 seasons. From the first day of filming, the power structure was already shifting. While the scripts called for equal screen time, the audience response told a different story. Fan mail poured in for Hawkeye. Critics praised Alda's performance. Network executives took notice. The carefully balanced ensemble Larry Gelbar had created was being dismantled by pure market forces. But market forces don't explain what happened next. Alda wasn't content to simply ride his popularity. He began pushing for creative control in ways that went far beyond typical star behavior. During script readings, he would question line deliveries, suggest rewrites, challenge the writer's intentions. Other actors watched as their equal partner transformed into something else entirely. The transformation wasn't gradual, it was systematic. Alda arrived at production meetings with detailed notes about character development, story arcs, and thematic consistency. He studied scripts with the intensity of a literature professor, analyzing every line for dramatic potential and political subtext. While other actors memorized their parts, Alda was memorizing everyone else's parts too.
I got into this business, and it is a business. I got into this by being mesmerized by the process.
Rogers wasn't just an actor collecting paychecks. He was a serious craftsman who understood the collaborative nature of television production. He trained at Princeton University, served as a naval officer, and brought real military experience to his portrayal of Trapper John. His insights about military protocol and medical procedures were based on actual knowledge, not research. But collaboration requires partners of equal standing, and that equality was evaporating with each episode. Writers who had initially welcomed input from all cast members began consulting primarily with Alda. Directors who had treated the leads as co-equals started deferring to Hawkeye's interpreter. The show's original democratic creative process was being replaced by a monarchy. The writers began favoring Hawkeye storylines not because they were inherently more interesting, but because Alda had become their primary creative partner. Directors deferred to Alda's suggestions not because he was necessarily right, but because he was the only actor offering sophisticated alternatives to their original concepts. Producers recognized where their bread was buttered. Their biggest star was also their most creative contributor. Within 18 months, the show that premiered as a two-hander had become a vehicle for one man's creative vision. The change wasn't accidental or market-driven. It was the result of one performer's relentless campaign for artistic control. McLean Stevenson, playing commanding officer Henry Blake, watched the transformation with growing frustration. He'd signed on to lead an ensemble cast, not support another actor's star turn. As a veteran performer with decades of experience, Stevenson understood ensemble dynamics. He recognized when those dynamics were being systematically destroyed. Larry Linville, playing the antagonistic Frank Burns, found his character increasingly one-dimensional as writers focused their energy on developing Hawkeye's complexity. Burns had originally been conceived as a worthy adversary for Pierce, incompetent medically but politically connected, creating genuine tension between competing authority structures. Under Alda's influence, Burns became a cartoon villain whose primary function was making Hawkeye look reasonable by comparison. The problem wasn't just screen time or story focus, it was creative input. Alda had opinions about everything: lighting choices that would better serve dramatic moments, camera angles that would enhance character interactions, editing decisions that would improve narrative flow, music cues that would support thematic content. His suggestions weren't casual observations. They were detailed research proposals backed by his growing understanding of television production. More importantly, his suggestions were treated as commands. His preferences became production mandates. The collaborative spirit that made early MASH magical was being strangled by one performer's relentless drive for control over every aspect of the creative process. By season 3, the cast had split into two distinct camps: those who embraced Alda's leadership and found their roles enhanced by his creative vision, and those who resented the diminishment of their own creative contributions. Professional relationships that had begun with warmth and mutual respect were hardening into polite tolerance and barely concealed resentment. The ensemble that never was had become one man's creative laboratory, with everyone else reduced to supporting players in Alan Alda's increasingly ambitious artistic experiment. Television writing in the 1970s operated on a rigid hierarchy that had governed Hollywood production for decades. Writers wrote, actors acted, directors directed. Everyone stayed in their carefully defined lanes, and the system functioned with industrial efficiency. But Alan Alda had different ideas about creative boundaries, and his systematic assault on the traditional power structure would reshape how MASH operated at the most fundamental level. The war began subtly, almost innocuously. During script table reads, Alda would pause mid-scene to question a character's motivation. He'd suggest alternative line readings that might better serve the scene's emotional content. He'd propose different blocking arrangements that could enhance the dramatic impact. At first, writers and directors welcomed his input with genuine enthusiasm. Here was an actor who cared deeply about the material, who thought seriously about character development and story structure, who treated television comedy as legitimate artistic expression. But concern quickly metastasized into control. The transformation happened so gradually that nobody recognized it was occurring until it was already complete. Alda began requesting private meetings with writers before filming episodes. He'd arrive at these sessions armed with pages of detailed notes about character arcs, thematic consistency, political messaging, and narrative coherence. His suggestions weren't casual observations from an interested performer. They were sophisticated research arguments for specific creative choices backed by extensive preparation and deep understanding of the source material. Writers who had created some of television's most memorable comedies suddenly found themselves defending their own scripts to an actor who had often done more preparation than they had. The power dynamic was inverting, but the process was so collegial and intellectually stimulating that many writers initially embraced it as creative collaboration rather than recognizing it as systematic takeover.
Directed would let us improvise some, little pieces or something like that, and he'd say, "Oh, wait, keep that in or cut that out." But he always said, "Remember, my name is on the script."
Producer Gene Reynolds understood the delicate balance between creative collaboration and authorial control better than most. The script was sacrosanct, not because of artistic snobbery, but because television production schedules demanded clear hierarchies and definitive decision-making. When everyone had input, nobody had authority. When nobody had authority, productions collapsed into creative chaos that destroyed budgets and missed deadlines. Alda systematically dismantled those protective boundaries through a combination of intellectual persistence and strategic positioning. He wasn't simply offering suggestions. He was presenting alternative visions for entire episodes, complete with detailed justifications for why his approach would better serve the show's artistic mission and political message. The pressure intensified exponentially when Alda started winning awards. Each Emmy validation strengthened his position in creative discussions with writers, directors, and producers. Network executives who might have dismissed an actor's script notes as professional overreach were now listening carefully to television's most celebrated performer. What had been suggestions became expectations. What had been requests became requirements. What had been collaborative input became creative mandate. Other cast members watched helplessly as their own creative contributions evaporated in the face of Alda's expanding influence. Wayne Rogers had trained at Princeton University and served as a naval officer, bringing authentic military experience in Ivy League education to his portrayal of Trapper John. His insights about military protocol, medical procedure, and officer psychology were based on real-world knowledge rather than research or imagination. But Rogers' authentic expertise became increasingly irrelevant if it conflicted with Alda's vision for any given scene. The actor who actually understood military hierarchy found himself taking direction from an actor whose military knowledge came entirely from scripts and research. The veteran who had lived the experience was being corrected by the performer who had only studied it. The breaking point came during pre-production meetings for season 4. Alda arrived with a comprehensive proposal for the show's future creative direction. Darker storylines exploring the psychological costs of war, more explicit political content challenging American foreign policy, deeper character development revealing the personal toll of military service, and significantly less broad comedy in favor of dramatic sophistication. This wasn't an actor offering creative suggestions to improve specific scenes. This was a star presenting a detailed manifesto for the show's artistic evolution, complete with episode concepts, character development arcs, and thematic frameworks that would guide the series for years to come. Writers who had created MASH found themselves taking notes from the actor they'd hired to perform their material. The inversion was complete and irreversible. The employee had become the employer. The interpreter had become the author. The performer had become the creative director. Larry Gelbart, the brilliant writer who had adapted Altman's film for television and crafted the show's distinctive voice, quietly began planning his exit. Gene Reynolds, the experienced producer who had guided the show through its early success and established its professional standards, started looking for other projects. They weren't being fired, they were being rendered professionally irrelevant by an actor whose creative ambitions had completely outgrown his official role in the production hierarchy. The script control wars had claimed their first casualties, and the bloodshed was just beginning. Professional relationships in television are built on a delicate ecosystem of ego, ambition, mutual respect, and carefully maintained power balances. When that ecosystem collapses, the destruction can be swift and absolute, leaving behind professional casualties that reshape entire productions. By the end of MASH's third season, the carefully constructed ensemble was fracturing under the immense pressure of one man's expanding creative empire. Wayne Rogers made the first decisive move in what would become a systematic exodus of original cast members. Rogers had spent 3 seasons watching his role steadily diminish from genuine co-lead to glorified supporting player. Scripts that once featured balanced storylines for both Hawkeye and Trapper now relegated him to reaction shots, setup lines, and comic relief moments. His character's military background, medical expertise, and leadership experience, qualities Rogers brought authentically to the role through his own naval service and Princeton education, were being systematically written out of episodes in favor of Hawkeye's endless philosophical monologues and political commentary. The transformation wasn't subtle. Episode analyses from seasons 1 through 3 reveal a dramatic shift in dialogue distribution, screen time allocation, and narrative focus. Rogers went from co-protagonist to sidekick, from equal partner to straight man, from collaborative creative contributor to passive performer of increasingly diminished material. The final professional insult came during a script meeting where Rogers suggested a storyline exploring Trapper's relationship with his family back home. The idea was dismissed without serious discussion. Writers explained that they were no longer interested in developing any character except Hawkeye, whose psychological complexity and political awakening had become the show's primary dramatic engine. Rogers realized he wasn't an actor in an ensemble comedy. He was a prop in Alan Alda's increasingly ambitious one-man show.
To my wife,
At least one daughter ago.
A salute to Trapper John, Wayne Rogers on Pop Goes the Culture.
Alda's public version of their relationship consistently emphasized collaboration, mutual respect, and shared creative goals. His interviews painted a picture of two professional actors working together to elevate their material and serve the show's artistic mission. But Rogers' actions told a fundamentally different story about their actual working relationship and creative dynamic. Professional actors don't abandon hit television shows during their peak popularity because they're satisfied with their creative partnerships. They don't walk away from steady employment and career-defining roles because they feel respected and artistically fulfilled. They leave when those partnerships become professionally untenable and personally demeaning. McLean Stevenson followed Rogers toward the exit door for remarkably similar reasons, though his situation carried additional layers of professional frustration. As commanding officer Henry Blake, Stevenson should have been the show's natural authority figure, the military leader whose experience and rank provided dramatic weight to the unit's operations and decisions. Instead, Stevenson found himself consistently playing second fiddle to Hawkeye's anti-authority crusade and moral grandstanding. Every scene featuring military protocol was filtered through Pierce's cynical perspective. Every command decision was undermined by Hawkeye's wisecracks and political commentary. Every moment of military seriousness was subverted by Pierce's irreverent attitude and superior moral positioning. Stevenson had originally signed on to play a complex military leader struggling with the inherent contradictions of war, a professional soldier trying to maintain order and morale while dealing with the psychological toll of endless casualties and impossible decisions. He ended up playing straight man to Alan Alda's political commentary and moral superiority complex. The character who should have provided dramatic gravitas and military authenticity became comic relief. The commanding officer was being systematically commanded by his subordinate, both on screen and behind the cameras. The pattern of departures wasn't coincidental. It revealed a systematic creative realignment that prioritized one performer's artistic vision over collaborative ensemble work. Rogers and Stevenson had decades of combined professional experience in theater, film, and television. They understood character development, story structure, audience engagement, and collaborative creative processes. But their insights became increasingly irrelevant in a production that revolved entirely around one performer's artistic vision and political messaging. Their expertise was unwanted. Their creative contributions were dismissed. Their professional opinions were ignored in favor of whatever served Alda's expanding creative control. Larry Linville's departure after season 5 confirmed the pattern and completed the transformation. As Surgeon Frank Burns, Linville had created one of television's most memorable antagonists, a character whose medical incompetence and political connections created genuine dramatic tension within the unit's hierarchy. But as the show shifted towards serious drama and explicit social commentary, Burns became an outdated relic of the earlier comedic approach. Complex villains require complex writing, and the writers were too busy serving Alda's character development and political messaging to maintain other performers' dramatic needs or character consistency. Each departure followed the same predictable trajectory: initial professional enthusiasm, growing creative frustration, polite attempts at negotiation and compromise, and finally resigned acceptance that their contributions were no longer valued or wanted by the production's new creative hierarchy. These weren't temperamental stars throwing tantrums over ego slights or salary disputes. They were experienced professional actors recognizing that their roles had been fundamentally redefined without their consent or input, and that their creative partnerships had been replaced by subordinate relationships to one performer's artistic ambitions. The Great Exodus had begun in earnest, and it would continue systematically until MASH became exactly what Alda had always intended. Not an ensemble comedy showcasing multiple talents, but a sophisticated dramatic starring vehicle for television's most creatively ambitious performer. Television directing in the 1970s required a unique combination of diplomatic finesse and artistic vision that few professionals could master effectively. Directors had to navigate competing egos, manage complex network politics, maintain creative control while keeping productions on schedule and under budget, and somehow create coherent artistic statements within the industrial constraints of commercial television. But directing MASH during Alan Alda's meteoric rise presented unprecedented challenges that even the most experienced professionals found completely insurmountable. Jackie Cooper discovered this harsh reality during his brief but memorable tenure on the show. Cooper brought genuinely impressive credentials to the production: former child star with decades of industry experience, accomplished director with multiple successful projects, and personal friend of producer Gene Reynolds, who had specifically requested his involvement. He expected to encounter a typical television production with clearly established hierarchies, professional boundaries, and predictable power dynamics. Instead, Cooper found himself working on a set where the star actor wielded more genuine creative authority than the director, where traditional production hierarchies had been completely inverted, and where professional boundaries had been systematically eliminated in a favor of one performer's expanding artistic control. Cooper's first serious conflict with Alda emerged during what should have been a routine blocking discussion. The director suggested positioning actors in specific locations that would improve camera coverage and create more visually interesting compositions. Alda disagreed emphatically, arguing that the proposed blocking would fundamentally undermine his character's emotional arc and compromise the scene's thematic significance. The disagreement escalated rapidly when Alda began explaining camera angles to Cooper, suggesting alternative shots that would better serve the scene's dramatic content and political messaging. The actor proceeded to discuss lighting choices, editing possibilities, and music cues with the authority of someone who had clearly studied every aspect of television production far more thoroughly than most directors. This wasn't an actor making helpful suggestions to improve a scene. This was a performer systematically directing the director, undermining established authority structures, and asserting creative control over technical and artistic decisions that traditionally fell outside an actor's professional purview. Cooper found himself in the unprecedented position of defending basic directorial decisions to an actor who had apparently developed comprehensive understanding of television production techniques, narrative structure, and audience psychology. The traditional power dynamic hadn't simply shifted, it had been completely inverted, with the actor teaching the director rather than the other way around. The situation deteriorated further when Cooper attempted to provide performance direction to other cast members. Alda intervened immediately, arguing that the director didn't understand the character's complex relationships, the show's larger creative vision, or the delicate emotional dynamics that had been developed over multiple seasons. Alda positioned himself as the protective patriarch of the MASH family, shielding his fellow actors from directorial criticism while simultaneously undermining Cooper's authority and credibility. The message was clear. Alda understood these characters, this world, and this artistic vision better than any outside director ever could. Cooper's autobiography would later describe Alda as controlling, manipulative, and professionally destructive. But the director's complaints revealed more about television's rapidly changing power structures than about any individual personality defects or character flaws. Stars with demonstrated creative intelligence, award-winning track records, and comprehensive understanding of production processes could no longer be treated as hired performers taking direction from above. They had evolved into creative partners with effective veto power over artistic decisions that affected their work and their characters' development. Other directors learned to adapt more successfully to Alda's expanded role and creative authority. They discovered that success required presenting their ideas as collaborative suggestions rather than authoritative commands. They incorporated Alda's extensive input into their creative processes rather than fighting against it. They recognized that directing MASH meant partnering with an actor who understood production techniques, storytelling principles, and character development as thoroughly as they did. But successful collaboration requires mutual respect and shared creative authority. And some directors simply couldn't accept that an actor might possess superior insights about character development, story structure, or thematic consistency. They viewed Alda's creative involvement as territorial encroachment rather than artistic partnership, creating conflicts that were fundamentally about professional authority and creative decision-making hierarchy. The conflicts that resulted weren't personality clashes between difficult individuals. They were systematic professional disagreements about creative authority, decision-making processes, and the changing nature of star power in television production. By season 6, MASH had developed an unofficial directing protocol that explicitly acknowledged Alda's unique status within the production hierarchy. Directors maintained technical control over camera work, lighting decisions, and post-production editing, but narrative choices, character development, and thematic content became collaborative efforts that heavily featured Alda's creative input and artistic vision. The arrangement wasn't formally documented in contracts or production agreements, but it was universally understood and accepted by everyone who worked on the show. The director wars had ended not with Alda's defeat or compromise, but with his complete and total victory over traditional television power structures. By 1977, MASH had undergone a metamorphosis so complete and irreversible that it bore little resemblance to the ensemble service comedy that had premiered 5 years earlier. The show had become something unprecedented in television history, a hit series completely transformed by one performer's relentless creative vision and systematic accumulation of artistic control. Alan Alda's victory was total, comprehensive, and professionally devastating for those who had resisted his creative takeover. Alda had gained writing credits for multiple episodes, demonstrating his ability to craft sophisticated narratives that explored complex themes of war, morality, and human psychology. He had secured directorial control over dozens of episodes, showcasing his technical mastery of television production and his ability to translate written material into compelling visual storytelling. He had achieved producer status, granting him input into every aspect of the show's creative direction, from casting decisions to post-production editing. His creative influence shaped every element of production: script development sessions, where his thematic vision guided narrative choices; casting meetings, where his character preferences determined new additions to the ensemble; editing rooms, where his artistic judgment influenced final cut decisions; and music sessions, where his dramatic instincts shaped the show's emotional tone. The collaborative television process that had governed Hollywood production for decades had been completely replaced by a system that revolved around one man's artistic ambitions and creative control. What had once been a democratic creative environment where writers, directors, producers, and actors contributed different expertise to a shared artistic vision had become an autocracy where all creative roads led through Alan Alda's approval and artistic judgment. The results were undeniably impressive from an artistic standpoint. Later seasons of MASH featured some of television's most sophisticated writing, dealing seriously with topics like post-traumatic stress disorder, military ethics, the psychology of violence, and the moral costs of war. Episodes like Dreams pushed the boundaries of television narrative structure into experimental territory, point of view presented an entire episode from the perspective of a wounded soldier, creating unprecedented intimacy between audience and character. The series finale became the most-watched scripted television episode in history, drawing over 105 million viewers and demonstrating the show's evolution from simple comedy into culturally significant dramatic television that addressed serious themes with intelligence and emotional depth. But artistic success couldn't erase the human cost of Alda's creative dominance or the professional casualties left in the wake of his systematic takeover. Former cast members watched from the sidelines as their replacements settled into carefully defined supporting roles that they had once hoped to develop into complex, multidimensional characters. Mike Farrell, replacing Wayne Rogers as B.J. Honeycutt, accepted from his first day on set that he was joining Hawkeye's show rather than an ensemble piece where multiple characters share dramatic weight and narrative focus. Harry Morgan, replacing McLean Stevenson as Colonel Potter, understood that despite his character's military rank and command authority, he would be taking creative direction from Alda rather than providing it. Every moment was calculated according to Alda's artistic vision. Every performance was filtered through his understanding of character development and thematic consistency. Every comedic beat was orchestrated to serve larger dramatic purposes rather than emerging organically from ensemble interaction and collaborative improvisation. The new cast members weren't necessarily less talented than their predecessors. They were simply more willing to accept secondary status in another performer's creative vision rather than fighting for collaborative creative partnerships. They brought professionalism, competence, and technical skill to their roles without challenging the fundamental power structure that had driven away Rogers, Stevenson, and Linville. The irony was that Alda's systematic control had probably saved the show from cancellation and creative mediocrity. Network executives and television critics consistently praised MASH's evolution toward more serious subject matter and sophisticated dramatic storytelling. The series won awards and critical acclaim that would have been impossible to achieve as a traditional service comedy with broad humor and simple character dynamics. The final transformation was complete and irreversible. MASH had become exactly what Alda had always intended, not just a television show, but a sophisticated platform for serious artistic expression about war, humanity, moral responsibility, and the psychological costs of violence. It was a remarkable creative achievement that came at the professional cost of everything television collaboration was traditionally supposed to represent. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.